My fellow viewers, what you've just witnessed is an example of one of the many products that we in the industry call video games. While you normies are sitting just using your eyes to consume media, us cool kids are using our hands as well to move, jump, shoot, and other things. Whether you like the high adrenaline anticipation of horror games, or even the relaxing yet challenging aspects of puzzle games, you can't deny that video games have changed how we as a public can enjoy and be engrossed into something on a screen. With older generations thinking they're too violent or socially stunting young people, there are so many different genres and types of games, it's easy to find a game that makes you say, wow, I'm having a fantastic time, and it lasts as long as your interest with it doesn't fade.
RPGs are dull as fuck.
When I play a game or watch a film, the world it is set in can't just rely on being interesting simply because the creators believe it is. You need to convince the audience that they should, frankly, give a shit about the world you created. And a good way to do that is through walls and walls of text and cutscenes so long and stagnant that it makes my console dim. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant essentially the worst way to do that. I guess my tongue slipped, I apologise for that. I'm all for big and complex worlds, learning its way of working, meeting new characters, different societies, and how they pan out with the story it wants to tell. But if the best way you can tell and convey a story within the context of this bustling, man-made world is through over 13 hours of cutscenes, most of them being people just talking, then maybe you shouldn't tell that story. Show, don't tell is a big problem I have with the few RPGs I've played. Because they bring about so many big concepts and history that are crucial to the world, it needs to somehow let the player know about it. You can't just skip over it. So to have those concepts just told to you is going to make that event seem less significant, and in my case, completely forgettable. We're going to look at two examples of world building through character introduction. The first from The Last of Us, specifically Ellie, and the second from Octopath Traveler, specifically Earhart. I really should look this up before I start recording. We're going to see what character traits are simply told to us, and what character traits are shown to us.
Whoa. Come on now. Get on up.
Fuck away from me!
Shown, quick to attack threats.
Well, you're recruiting kind of young, aren't you?
She's not one of mine. Oh, shit. What happened? Don't worry, this is fixable.
Shown, protective of people she cares about.
But I can't come with you. Well, then I'm staying. I want Joel to watch over her.
Whoa, I don't think that's
shit,
the
I'm
best
not
idea.
going with him.
Shown, a disobedient teenager.
How do you know them?
Shown, wary of others.
Sir Eric, I know this.
There is no stronger knight in the realm. Other than yourself, of course.
Told, a strong knight.
What have you done?
Have you not eyes? The king is dead by my hand.
Shown, sarcastic asshole.
No madness here. We call it treachery, if you will.
I thought you a friend. A brother!
Told, he was thought of as a friend, a brother.
Brothers indeed. How many times did we cross swords like this in the practice yards?
Told, sparring partner. While one game makes the effort to carve out a realistic and relatable character that players will remember, the other gives you the equivalent of a checklist. I don't know why this is done, but I give it a strong dislike out of 10. Another part of why I don't like RPGs is that the flow of the game is usually quite slow and painfully boring. Author Rain Hall says that a good way to write a story is to have peaks and troughs of tension. However, I feel like tension is the wrong word to use here, since it invokes nerves and drama, so we're going to switch up a bit and call it peaks and troughs of intensity. Peaks and troughs of intensity are important when constructing a narrative. Too much of one thing and people will get bored, so it's important to have a good mix of each to avoid monotony and makes each peak hit harder. I believe the same can be said about gameplay. Resident Evil, when it was released in 1996, did a great job of balancing out the exploration and puzzles with shooting monsters and whatever the hell that thing is. Is that a face? It is our face? Hell, Mario Party has peaks and troughs. The roulette wheel of picking a minigame is a little peak. Practicing said minigame and learning the rules of it is a trough. But actually playing the minigame for a chance to win 10 sexy coins, whew, that's a big boy peak. RPGs though,
Your Highness!
What now? Unbelievable.
Not exactly a fairy tale beginning, huh, Prince Noctis?
So those are my two main points of why I have a slight distaste for RPGs. The actual flow of the game does not keep me entertained with its walking, waiting, and then talking. And the rich story and atmosphere of said games seem to be spoon-fed to you, instead of the game letting you work stuff out on your own. Bear in mind, this doesn't mean I'm never going to pick up another RPG ever again. Cyberpunk 2077 looks incredible. The Final Fantasy VII Remake has me excited to experience the game for the first time. Xenoblade Chronicles is my favourite video game ever. And when RPG-esque elements are implemented... Wait, what was that last thing? Xenoblade Chronicles is fantastic. Like, oh my god, it's just great. When Shulk was revealed for Super Smash Bros. In 2014, I remember not being very excited for him being in. Mostly because
I've never met this man in my life.
but he looks cool. So when the game released and Lil Mac, the character I was most excited for, turned out to be not good. I went to learn how Shulk played, and at the same time went on to see what Xenoblade actually was. Xenoblade Chronicles is an open world action role-playing game. Oh, okay, fantastic, cool, neat. But I'm a curious guy, so I had a look at Chuggaconroy's extensive playthrough of the game, which I very quickly became obsessed with. Graphically, it looks like garbage, but other than that, I loved the characters. The plot had so many twists and turns. Even the side quest was semi-interesting, despite how some could be quite long complicated. I managed to discover that one of the faced Mechon, the main enemy of the game up until this point, was one of the characters that was killed by the Mechon, which kickstarted the whole story of the game. I was astonished, shocked, and overall just excited. I was already sold into getting the game, but with it going for £60 at the time, which is a ridiculous amount for a Wii game that was released around 2 years prior, I held off on it. However, it was at this moment that I saved up the money to get Xenoblade for the Wii, along with a classic controller, because I'm not using a nunchuck, I'm not an idiot. In January 2015, I actually played Xenoblade Chronicles for the first time, and was met with my favourite video game theme and favourite title screen ever. Even though I know what happens in the first 40 hours of the game, it all just felt more significant. Probably because now I was actually playing it. I felt that my actions actually have consequences rather than watching someone else and experiencing it secondhand. It was no longer, oh, that character was just killed, time to really step things up. It was now, one of my best friends was brutally murdered by this thing, and I couldn't do anything to stop it.
I'm going to kill you and then kill you again.
Time I should be spending learning what Curly's wife's red dress meant for GCSE English was spent on rebuilding Colony 6 and wondering where the other colonies went. I was completely and fully immersed. Which I guess is the main point of this video essay. When simply put, immersion is the state of being totally involved and engaged with something. And with gaming, this term is kind of thrown around, like it's what every developer strives for, or every player wants from their game, which is fundamentally an oversimplified and flawed perspective. If it were that easy, then every single cool kid would adore FIFA because it added a story mode where you can make decisions. An IGN Spider-Man review wouldn't have gone laughed at.
Coupled with gameplay that made me feel like Spider-Man nearly every step of the way. Spider-Man's...
What?
If someone asks me what I think about Xenoblade, and I describe it as immersive. That doesn't really tell you anything. I could have said, I think it's good, and you get the same amount of information. Arguably more, because good is an actual opinion rather than a buzzword. If I went on about what immersion is and how it describes a game, I would be basically just retelling Bite Kramer's video essay. I'll put a link to that in the description so you can get a better idea about what I'm getting at in broad terms. But now it's time to get specific. Xenoblade Chronicles does a fantastic job of creating a realistic and interactive world that you are a part of rather than just overlooking. This type of immersion is known as spatial presence. David Weibel and Bartholomew Vismath, hopefully I said that right, cites John Stewart and his definition of presence as the extent to which an individual feels present in the mediated environment, rather than the immediate physical environment. They go on to reference Wirth and others who suggest that spatial presence can be achieved in a two-way model. The first step being the construction of a mental model, and the second step of experiencing that mental model in a primary egocentric reference frame, or PERF. What do you mean you don't know what that means? So basically, the first step is actually imagining and visualizing the mediated world with information given to you by said media. In this case, you're actually playing the game. And the second step is being able to plop yourself within that world. Do those two things correctly, then congratulations, you've experienced spatial presence and now fully immersed. It's a bit loud here. I've never felt like I was involved in a video game, any piece of media really, as I was with Xenoblade. When I first exited Tephra Cave and saw both the Mechonis and Bionis as these powerful yet dormant titans, and knowing the Mechonis is the home of the people that invaded my village and killed one of my closest friends, so many emotions were provoked. A sense of awe, wonder, amazement, compulsion, anger, perseverance. I wouldn't be feeling any of these things if I didn't take hours, days even, out of my life to fully engage and experience this wonderful world, environment and story. This is called attention allocation, and without this, it is impossible to fully immerse yourself within a piece of media. And oh boy, I allowed my full attention of this masterpiece of media, my personal argument for video games being a work of art. So why didn't I finish it? So here I am, inside the Bionis, going to defeat Zanza, because apparently I was actually aiding the bad guy. And I came across this battle with Lorithia, and it was impossible. Death after death after death after death. Looking up what characters are best to use, which didn't work. Maybe I need some new gems or weapons, which means I needed to gather materials and money for them. That didn't work. I am a few levels lower than her, so I just grinded it, which meant some collectathon side quests and beating random enemies again and again to earn more XP. The story came to a grinding halt, through what I felt like minimal fault of my own. This massive battle in the 11th hour of the game had to be held off, so I can do other mindless stuff, which I'd done alongside the main story. Without the peaks of intensity from said story, I'm stuck with the troughs, culling the native wildlife and obtaining blue orbs. It doesn't switch up or become entertaining, since once you've found a trio of characters and attributes that work with a specific enemy, unless you come across a hugely different enemy, you almost never need to change it around. The game was turning into all the things I didn't like in RPGs, but somehow worse because I was no longer being shown or even told a story, because the story was waiting for me. I wasn't thinking of myself actually inside a living titan that had just killed another titan and the civilization that lived upon it. I was thinking about which characters I used to win an overpowered boss battle. I was no longer taking part in a destined adventure, trying to save existence itself from this tyrannic god. I was a 16-year-old kid stuck on a video game level. My immersion was slowly fading away, but before long, I put the game down. If I had to guess, I would say I was like 90% through the game's story. People who have actually completed the game can tell me if I'm wrong or not. But being so tantalizingly close to the end is so disappointing. No matter how much I tried to power through it, I just wasn't having fun, and it took a good week or two for me to even begin to slowly pull away from the game, until I finally turned it off for good. But looking back at it now, I think I'm glad I didn't complete it. Maybe. I could be spitting absolute trash, but hear me out, as in you've been here for a while, so you might as well wait it out until the end and actually see if I have something important to say.
You have arrived at your destination.
Alright, let me paint you a word picture real quick. Imagine that you decided to take part in a marathon in 3 months' time. You go to the gym, try and improve your running time, you successfully diet, sometimes you have an off day, but that's okay since you'll work twice as hard tomorrow because you will complete this marathon. Then the day comes. By mile 15, you're really starting to feel exhausted. However, you don't give up because you're not a pussy ass bitch. Finally, you cross that finish line. You completed the marathon and it's a fantastic feeling. You receive your medal, celebrate with your friends and family, and you head home with only one thought in your mind. Now what? The determination and drive you had for something is gone. You're no longer working towards something because you've done it, and the satisfaction of completing it now turns into a feeling of emptiness. And now you've got to find something else to fill that void, which will hit similar beats of your marathon journey, and therefore end in the same way. Falling into a minor depressive state since you achieved a long-term goal that didn't make you feel as content as you thought. Just like Mama used to make, it's just bellissimo, molto bene. This method of thinking is what Ben Shahar describes as a rival fallacy. The false belief that reaching a valued destination can sustain happiness. Like, once you completed that marathon, you'll finally be happy. If you undergo a task purely for the fulfillment of the end, then that result won't have as big of an effect on you, because there's always something next to strive towards. The next big obstacle or journey to achieve that new goal, which causes a vicious cycle of doing something purely for the end result. As I closed in on the end of Xenoblade, that's all that mattered. The end. I didn't care about the side quests or exploring more of the world, I just wanted to complete the story, which in turn will lead to this empty feeling and just wave of disappointment. In my head, I've already completed the game since I thought I knew it was going to happen. So if it did eventually happen, I wouldn't be as happy or content as I thought I would be. This also explains why my immersion was lost, as what I wanted to do in the game is something that I could not do. The piece of media that allowed me to fully interact with it and treat me as a user rather than a passive audience member were telling me no. Through game overs. Not completing the game somehow gave me this retrospective appreciation for it. My almost 100-hour journey did not fall flat in expectations or delivery because the story hasn't yet ended and the world that I felt involved in is still going in my head. It might sound stupid because obviously it's a game, not a documentary, but maybe that's why my love of the game has far from faded as well. Everyone has a media product that they hold dear to their hearts and creates such an emotional impact. Something that engrosses you for hours and proceeds to stick with you for years, sets the bar for anything else you may watch, read, or in my case, play. Xenoblade was and still is that piece of media over 5 years later. I haven't played a game that's made me feel so immersed in its world, story, or characters. Just everything about it I fell in love with. Even though in the end I didn't complete it, I'm wholeheartedly convinced that not having done has made my experience in hindsight even better, because I know I can go back and experience it again. Ben Shahar continues explaining his arrival fallacy concept. Attaining lasting happiness requires that we enjoy the journey on our way toward a destination we deem valuable. Happiness is not about making it to the peak of the mountain. Happiness is experience or climbing towards the peak. The destination, without the journey to accompany it, is not a good experience to have, no matter in what context. But an amazing, significant, and mesmerizing journey will stay with you, regardless of what the end may have in store. But at the same time, some may argue that reaching destination is a big part of the journey itself. And for me to find out what the end has in store, I have to play through the game again. And if I were to play through it again, it will need to be a remastered version to give me that similar sense of immersion. And I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Oh my fucking god! Holy shit! Holy fucking shit! It's happening!